Good morning, guys. MWUSA Season 3, Episode 146. It is the next morning. It is Monday morning, and what a Sunday night we had. We had the wife along for the first time ever, and she got to see all the fun we have away from home, and she even mentioned that she knew I worked hard, but she wouldn't want to do this every day. And traveling from one casino to another, sometimes 45 minutes, sometimes an hour, sometimes 2 hours, and then going in and making $10 or $5 or losing, and then going on to the next casino and hardly ever complaining. I don't want to say never, but hardly ever complaining at home and trying to keep it cool and saying yes when the kids need something or the house needs something, and never stressing about that stuff, whether we're going through good times or bad times. So she had a decent time, she said. She was a good sport about it. She did sleep in the car while I was at my last stop, and I called her up in the middle of that last slot that we hit for $2,200, and I said, I'm about to hit a W2, so hang in there. And she's like, okay, no problem, and went back to sleep. But overall, it was a crazy day, and that's one of the first times that I had to abandon a session to make sure I didn't get my money back, because I was getting heat. There was one point when surveillance called down and asked the guy to put something on the table so they could identify the table and then identify me. And then while they were up there, he was typing frantically on the screen, and we all know what that is. If you don't know what that is when you are suspected of card counting. Many times they'll stand at the kiosk on your machine or at the main one in the pit and watch what your bets are and type them in, because they can't always see them clearly from upstairs, and that way they can see what your bets are compared to what the count is. Lots of times I'm very mindful of this, and even if I don't have heat, I will still do some things. One thing that you can do is you can line up your chips. So if you're doing one chip or two chips, it's kind of hard to see. So what they do is, if you notice, the side of the casino chips have different colors, and they're not always in the same order. Sometimes it'll be like red, white, and blue, blue, white, and red. And then what happens is, when you have your chips stacked, those lines don't add up straight, and they can tell that it's one chip, two chip, three chips. So one thing a dealer told me a long time ago, and it made a lot of sense, and I've kind of carried with that, is that they were bored one day, and so they lined up all their chips so all the lines lined up in their rack. And they got a call from surveillance, and surveillance said, please don't do that anymore. We can't tell how much money is in your till, in your rack. So that makes a lot of sense. If you can understand that, when all of them, the pattern's exactly straight like that, then they can't tell, they can't count how many chips. That's why you have that pattern in there. So I would sometimes take advantage of that if I wanted to do something crazy, like go from one black to two purple or something like that. It makes it less obvious, especially if the pit boss is on the other side of the pit. They don't know what's going on. But anyway, moving on here. I am on my way to the office. I'm actually just pulling into the driveway for work. Already had a meeting in the car, short 15-minute meeting. And today, this week actually, I just noticed about an hour ago, this week I have very few meetings, which is very interesting. Last week was so busy, and this week I have so few. So there will be some more time to run away from the office and try to get some gambling time in. Monday and Tuesday, as always, it's probably going to be less than normal because I am glued to the office. I do have meetings inside the office. I do have a cubicle in the office with neighbors on all three sides, so they notice when I'm gone. So what I like to do when I like to sneak away to the casino is I like to put a couple back-to-back meetings on my calendar and then leave with just the laptop in my hand, like I'm going somewhere in the building, and I leave all my other stuff, like my backpack and everything, at my desk. Then when I come back to my desk, it looks like I just came back from somewhere in the building, so that makes sense. So right now, pulling into a parking spot at the office, and we're going to go in. We're going to look like we're having fun and helping the team and be a team player, and I'll come back and update you when I have something for you. All right, guys, I am back. So got to the office nice and early, did my meeting on the way there. It was just a short meeting. Everything's cool. It's been raining since last night. Actually, before we got home last night, it started raining, and it is continuing to rain, but it looks like it's about to clear up, so that'll be good. So I have an engineering meeting here in about 7 minutes. There's going to be about 300 people in this meeting, so I can just join the meeting and everything will be fine, and I can be listening to the meeting even if I'm traveling somewhere. So that's what I decided I'm going to do. I am going to go to a casino now. I'm going to get my laptop turned on so it's next to me and it shows me as active. And then I will go into this casino, take a run through, maybe spend half an hour or 40 minutes in there. Like I said, this week I'm very light on meetings, which is excellent. I did add a meeting after this meeting, so that gives me a couple hours to be away from the office without any issue. Yeah, that should give me enough time to run through this casino at least once or twice, grab some food, and head back to the office. And what's better is by the time I get back to the office, everyone will be still out to lunch, so I'll be able to get a nice close parking spot and then get in there, and it'll look like I've been there for a long time. Because if they all leave, let's say at noon for lunch, and they're back at 1, and I get there at 12:55, they don't know if I got there at 12:01 or 12:55. So yeah, so that's what's happening right now. You know, I was reflecting a little bit on yesterday. I think I made the right decisions. It's hard to say I'm going to lose, but I think I made the right decisions there. You know, I've had a lot of really rocky weeks lately, but we've come back quite a bit. There was 1 or 2 weeks there about 3 or 4 weeks ago that was really tough, but overall still doing okay, still heading in the right direction. And nobody really understands what we do unless they do it also. And for people to come up with these simplistic ideas about what we do and how easy it is, it's not. I mean, okay, you can't win every time. You can't lose every time. Well, you won 3 times in a row, so you're bound to lose. How could you win 4 times in a row? That's all baloney. It's the math and it's variance. And if you're there long enough, it starts to balance out. And for someone to say, you know, oh, you win again, that's really crazy. You don't understand what I do. You don't know what I do. I mean, I'll try to explain it to you if you're willing to listen. And that is, when I go in there, if I have a quick hit, I'm ahead right away a substantial amount, $500, $700, $900, I leave. Why would I give them an opportunity to review something? Let them review that session where I was ahead $900 and it was a negative count the whole way through, and then try to label me as a card counter. You know, I mean, I employ some things that most people don't do, whether it's social engineering or you know, leaving at a certain point, whether it was because of card counting or just variance or even at negative counts that I won. And I make it very difficult for someone to audit me and say for sure this guy's doing something. And if I'm a regular in a place and they start to remember me and I'm always giving them the story that I'm losing, and then they audit me every once in a while, they have to audit me on the day that I have happened to win on a big count, that I happen to not have a short session, all these different things have to line up, and then it's a maybe, right? This guy's been here for all this time. We've never had a problem. They might audit me every 6 months, maybe every 3, but probably every 6. And then they're going to say, well, we've audited him 5 times. Let's audit him again. It's been 6 months because he's playing unrated, but everything seems to be okay. Do you think they're really going to focus on it? I might not have been doing this for 10 years, but I've been doing this long enough that I understand the trends. And I was a gambler before doing this as a living, and I understand what people think and how people act in a casino more than just some guy who learned how to count and is winning 54% of the time and is like, how do you win more often than that? I understand things a little bit more than that. So anyway, sorry about the rant. I'll be back. All right, guys, I'm back. So just left that place and really found some things here and there, but it was kind of choppy. I walked in, found a couple nice plays right away. I was up like $40 or $50. And then I ran into a friend, talked to him for a minute, and he's like, yeah, that machine has a play, but he didn't know enough about it. I looked at it and I thought it was okay, not great. I played it and lost about 150 on it, so now I was down about 100. Then as I was cursing him walking around the casino, I found another play, and that one paid like $4 more than I just lost, so I was ahead like $54. Looked around, found a couple other things. I actually found about $5 in vouchers in machines. One of them was one of those 88 machines, 88 coins to spin it, and it was a nickel machine. There was 76 nickels in the machine, and it looks like it's nothing. It looks like 76 cents, but 76 nickels is almost $4. So with all that, I ended up ahead $65. I got some food, and I'm feeling okay, and I'm heading back to the office right now. And as I was sitting there eating, I was thinking about yesterday and the changes that I made for cover, and I never really do that, but I did do it yesterday, and I calculated how much I lost by doing that. So the first thing, starting off with 3 times the minimum bet on that table, came to about 30 cents per shoe that I lost. And we're talking about probably 5 or 6 shoes, so call it $2 that I lost with that cover. And then lowering my bet spread from 1 to 8 to 1 to 4, maybe 1 to 5 here and there, cost me about $100 an hour. So I was still at about $70-something an hour. So I was still able to play, still able to recover my money, just at a slower pace, and just hopefully under the radar. It shouldn't be a problem. I doubt that there's going to be any issue. Like I said, it's not something that I normally do, but I know the question came up in my head, and I'm sure you guys thought about it. Well, when you did all that and changed it that drastically, how much did it cost you? And the answer is, assuming 5 shoes per hour, which is pretty decent speed, it cost me about $102 an hour by doing that. So gave up more than half of my EV by doing that, but was still a positive, a decent amount on there. So not the ideal situation, but it's good to calculate those things and realize where you are. I remember quite a few times where I came into a casino and the conditions were totally different than I expected. It was a no mid-shoe entry, and I would just, I got to go to the bathroom real quick. Just hold the table for me. And I would run and do the calculations and come back and change my bet spread a little bit to have the spread that would give me the EV I wanted hourly. So anyway. All right, so right now it is the end of lunchtime, so everyone is going to be hurrying back to the office before 1 o'clock. I'm going to get in there right before them. Look like I've been there the whole time. Right now, I look like I am still in a meeting for another 15 minutes. I'll be pulling into the office shortly after that, and I'll look like the hero that I am. So, anyway. Yep, Joe the superhero. All right, I'll be back. All right, guys, I am back. So right now it is 3 p.m. And I don't have any more meetings today. I came back to the office and showed my face and took care of some tickets, and we have a member of the team who's out this month for military service, and I was able to take over some of their duties even though I wasn't asked to. I did it just to show how much of a team player I am, and frankly, corporate America is easy and boring, and it gave me something to do while I was sitting there. But then I started thinking about something, and that is, I've always wondered this, and I'm sure there's something to it. I'm sure that there's some kind of an algorithm that can make a difference in this. Here's what I'm talking about. If you take a 6-deck shoe and you randomly shuffle it, and then you cut it randomly, put the cut card in randomly, and you play the shoe, and you record based on basic strategy and standard deviations, or just basic strategy, you could do it either way, how many units you win or lose in that shoe. And then you recreate the shoe with the first card being the last card. So it's just like you cut it one card deeper, and you ran that through and saw how many units you were ahead or behind. And you did that all through the 6-deck shoe. So you're running this over 300 times, right? And see if it makes a difference long term where the cut card is. Okay? That's the first part of it. So I thought, well, we could do it with a smaller sample size, maybe 1 deck. So I got a spreadsheet out, and I asked ChatGPT to give me all 52 cards of a deck randomly. And it gave me the cards. And I didn't care about the suit. Obviously, we're not trying to do any kind of side bets or anything here. We just want to know the basic strategy and shuffling. And so I recorded those in order in a spreadsheet, and I ran through with basic strategy and saw how many units I would be up or down, running all the way through to the last card, and if there wasn't enough cards, then the last hand would be canceled. So as I did that, I got to the second or third iteration. I started thinking, well, what about deviations? I went back and went through, and amazingly, a random selection kept me between -2 and +2 running count, maybe even like almost exactly -1 and +1. It was so close to even that deviations so far in the first 6 iterations I've done don't matter. There's no, at one time it did 16 against a 10, neutral, so with a 0. So it didn't really matter. So then I started thinking, okay, we got to make sure we take into consideration blackjack pays 3-2. I adjusted for that, and I'm running through. And so far, it seems like a good shoe is a good shoe, but I don't know for sure yet, right? And I'm only doing heads up. I'm not going to get too complicated with it. I want to run through this one time, which is 52 iterations, and see where I end up. And I understand that this means absolutely nothing because there are endless combinations of, just in one deck, you can sort the cards in so many different ways that it's endless. But I wanted to find a way to somehow use a script to do this. But in order to do that, starting with the random cards is easy. That's no big deal. And then you would use those same cards and move them one card over each iteration. That's not a big deal. But then you'd have to program the script to understand the value of a jack, queen, king, ace, and so on, and what basic strategy is. And then if you wanted to go further, you would say, let's say, illustrious 18 deviations, and see where that would take you. Now, why is this important? Is this a big waste of time? I don't believe it's a big waste of time, because I believe that there are combinations that could be set where the player has a bigger advantage than a hand shuffle. So in a hand shuffle, it's not truly random because the dealer shuffles in a certain way, and they take cards off, certain number of cards at a time, and shuffle in a certain way, and every dealer is a little bit different. So hand shuffle is a little, it's random. It's a little more random, I think. But a random shuffle is that random, because what is the definition of random? I hope I'm not going too far here. How do you tell a computer to pick a random card? What is a random? How does it know which one is the random one? It has to have some kind of point of reference, whether it's your internal CPU clock in your computer, or internal clock, in your computer, or something that has to reference to say, okay, they pushed enter on their keyboard at this exact time, which means this random thing happens. Does that make sense? You can't tell a computer, okay, pick randomly heads or tails. It doesn't know what that is. So you have to tell it, okay, in random, if the time ends in an odd number, it's heads, and if it's an even number, it's tails. Or what they do with lottery numbers sometimes, they don't do the balls bouncing in the thing anymore. They do, okay, there's a meteor going by the Earth, and at the time of the drawing, what is its exact coordinates, and then it runs that with some kind of an algorithm to get you the numbers. So there is no true random anything. So anyway, I know it's getting long here, but if you did that with a 6-deck shoe, what would the results be? And then I know now you're running it 300 times, but then what if you did that with 1,000 random shoes, 100,000 random shoes, and you did that? What would the result be? And I'm interested to know what kinds of combinations there could be that could be all player or all dealer weighted. That you're gonna have a lot of player wins or a lot of dealer wins, no matter where it's cut. And I believe that there is such a thing as that. And I believe that it could be duplicated. And then I believe that you could sit there and record a shoe and run that through the simulator, or record 10 shoes and run those through the simulator and see if they're biased one way or another. Meaning that just because the player won in a shoe does not mean that they're going to win most of the time in that shoe, depending on where it's cut. May it be the player would win 10% of the time, and they happen to cut it in the sweet spot that gave them the win. I'm interested in that because I don't know if these companies are smart enough to do this with card shufflers, or they care, or they just want to go with the odds and they don't care. But I believe that there's a way to do this. I don't think anyone is doing this, but I'm very interested in this question. So hopefully that didn't just make you go to sleep. Hopefully I expressed that in a good way. But if you have ideas for this, send me an email. Otherwise, right now I'm going to deal with just one deck, and I'm going to run 52 iterations, which is going to take time. It'll take a couple hours. And then I'm going to do another random deck and try to do it. And along the way, while I'm driving and doing things, I'm going to try to think about better ways to do that, better shortcuts to do that, so that it'll cut down my time without being able to run some kind of software that someone writes. So, and if you know how to do that, I'd be interested, Anyway, so I am heading back to the casino right now. I've got my laptop next to me. Everything is good. I'm not going back to the office for the rest of the day. I'm going to give it one more shot. Hopefully we can make 100 or 2, and then I'll be back to update you. All right, guys. I am back. Walking to my car. Gorgeous day outside. Went in there, looked around, found a lot of plays, but just not a lot of money. Everything was pretty boring. Took a long time, broke even on a lot of them, and just really not much there. Played for about 45 minutes or so, always checking my phone to see if there's any kind of alerts or anything that I have to worry about. And talked to a few people that I knew in there, but really wasn't much going on, and ended my session ahead 56. So 65 this morning, 56 now, and yeah, really not much else happening. What are you going to do when you're stuck in town or close to home? I can't go more than an hour away from my office, so there's not much that I can do. Tomorrow, Tuesday, going to be probably another similar day. It may be possible for me to leave tomorrow. I'm not really sure. Although tomorrow I do have, the only meeting I have tomorrow is with my manager. And there may be a possibility of canceling that because he's always interested in not doing some kind of work. So it reminds me of somebody I know. But so I may be able to get out of that. If I do, see, I can't really go out of town right away because the human resources department likes to see people's logins, like when you scan your card to get into the building, and they want to make sure that everybody is there Mondays and Tuesdays. But I believe those start at about 6 a.m. So maybe a possibility I could get in there. If I want to get in there, I'm not going to do it at 6. Now, one thing I could do is go late tonight and into tomorrow. And then, I got to think about that. There may be some possibilities here. I mean, the real best way to do it would be to take the day off. But who wants to do that? The next best thing, I guess, would be take the afternoon off. But that's when my meeting with my manager is. So maybe get there early in the morning, do what I did today, have the meeting with the manager, go back and have another session, and that's all I could really do. So we'll see what happens. Right now, plus $56, and I have a couple things to do in this area, so I'm going to go ahead and take care of some personal business, and we'll talk later. Alright guys, you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to release this now. I'm not going to wait for Tuesday. Maybe I'll merge Tuesday with Wednesdays, whatever that happens. Tuesday's not going to be that big of a deal anyway, but at least this way I can release this and get it out to you. We'll just call it a day for now. If you have any questions or comments, the email is mwusa21@gmail.com, mwusa21@gmail.com. See you next time.